My name is William Hendricks, and in today's video, we'll be going over the infamous baby statue incident that happened after App State beat Texas A&M in football. The main reason that I chose this topic to research was because it was one of the biggest stories on campus the year prior to me coming to Appalachian State. I had a lot of friends that were up here at the time that would talk about this topic, and I figured that getting this assignment would be a great opportunity for me to do some research and learn more about it. The main goals of my research were to understand the atmosphere of Boone, North Carolina after such a big win that would lead to the destruction of the sculpture, and also to find out where that sculpture is now, and lastly, to find out how the artist behind the sculpture was affected by the news that it was destroyed. To first understand the atmosphere, we need to look at the upset that occurred the day of. Appalachian State had beat the number 6 Texas A&M Aggies in College Station after the Aggies had missed a late fourth quarter field goal, and Appalachian State ended up running the clock out to win the game. The first major event, the day of the incident, was the King Street celebration. To find out more about the celebration, I interviewed Alex Abernathy, who is currently a senior at Appalachian State, and his roommate Connor Corcoran, who is currently a junior at Appalachian State, who were both there at the King Street celebration. Talking to Alex Abernathy, he first told me that not long after the game, he could feel his apartment shaking on Howard Street, which is just a street down from King Street. He then tells me that he goes outside of his apartment on his deck to see what is going on and what all the commotion is. He then hears cheers and a lot of noise coming from King Street, so he and his roommate decided to walk up there to see what was going on. Both Abernathy and Corcoran state that when they arrived there, they saw people jumping and celebrating and running all over the place. People were even jumping on top of cars, even shooting off fireworks in this celebration. They stated that when they got in there were people all on top of each other and there was really nowhere to move. It was one of the craziest events that they had ever experienced. Abernathy and Corcoran both say that they started to see people moving away from King Street and going in the direction of River Street, where the duck pond is, and this is where the infamous duck pond swim occurred. Cooper Bodford, who is a senior up here at Appalachian State, was here for the duck pond swim, and I talked to him about it. He said that he went into campus to see what was going on after the big win. The first thing he sees is a crowd starting to form around the duck pond. He goes on to say that he was curious and he wanted to see what was going on. Upon his arrival, he sees that there are multiple people jumping in the duck pond and they are splashing and swimming around. He then says that they start to set their sights towards the baby statue in the middle of the duck pond. And this is when they start to climb on top of it and tear it apart and ultimately sinking it. Bodford states that he had never seen anything like this, and this is and will always be the craziest celebration that he will ever see. Finally, one of the main points of my research, I wanted to get the artist's reaction. The artist behind the sculpture is Kevin Curry, and I decided to email him and ask him some questions about how he felt and what's going on with the statue now. I first asked him, what was your initial reaction to the sculpture sinking? And surprisingly, he didn't seem all too upset, but he did feel disrespected that his work that he had put a lot of time into was destroyed over a football game. It was very unfortunate for Kevin Curry to have his work destroyed in this way, but I don't believe that there was any ill intent by the students. It was just an unfortunate situation. I then asked Curry if he knew where the statue was now and if there were any future plans for it. He goes on to tell me that the statue was scattered around the campus after being torn apart, and the rest of it was sitting at the bottom of the duck pond. So there were no future plans because there was not really much you could do with it after that. In the end, I had learned that the atmosphere in Boone was absolutely crazy. The students were going to do anything that seemed like a good time in their celebration. I also learned that Kevin Curry had felt disrespected by the statue being destroyed, and that the statue was torn apart, spread around campus, and the rest of it sat at the bottom of the duck pond, so there were no future plans for the statue. Also, I don't believe there was any ill intent by the students, and I think they were just celebrating and they got a little too carried away.